truck? I'm just curious. Familiar with it? Okay, awesome. We are now entering our second year of business, which is very exciting. Crazy how fast a year goes. I just wanted to get an idea, like, who's here and what kind of businesses we have. How many have been in business? Like, maybe this is, you're just starting or like your first year? Okay, awesome. Also, anybody want to share, like, what industry you're in? I know you said real estate agents. Who's all here? I know. Back here we have Cece.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
I'm the president of the Little Miami River Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Right over the.
I've been in contact with you. Awesome. Okay. Well, I want to know how many of you have been in corporate jobs and have since left to start your business.
Trying to get
Lots of people. Awesome. So before I started Daisy Jane's Flower Truck, I was a reporter at Local 12. I was there for 3 years. Thought I was going to be there like the rest of my career. It was a dream to come back home and work here in my hometown. I was in broadcasting for a little over 6 years, previously in Lexington, Kentucky, and then my first market was in Traverse City, Michigan. So still consider myself a storyteller, still love that. But I think you have to know when it's time to go. I think everybody's experienced that in one way or another with your careers. Of course, on camera, I was usually always having fun, doing something funny. Also covered a lot of horrible, tragic stories. But what you didn't see on the other side of the camera was my reality. Working mornings, my alarm clock was 2:30, 2:35, 2:40. Eventually, I would wake up. My husband loved that. But yeah, so a large part of my career was processing and reporting complex, difficult, oftentimes heartbreaking stories. Of course, you guys, if you watch the news, we see it every day. Couple that with working sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night. It's emotionally, mentally, physically exhausting. And couple that with, everybody's happy to see you knocking on their door at those hours of the morning, especially talking about really tragic things that they probably just went through. So over my career, I had a lot of people, when I would be out in the field, they would tell me, sorry, I don't know who you are. Like, I really don't watch the news. It's just really depressing. And it is, especially when you're doing it, being on scene. I feel like I had a front row seat to just the hard things of reality every day. Tragic accidents, overnight shootings, senseless crimes. Being on scene when family arrives is really hard. Seeing people finding out in those short moments that they've lost a loved one, and kind of taking that in. Like, it's easy when we're on camera, we just kind of read facts, but, in between those times, it's like you're absorbing all of that emotion and having to talk to those people. And I will say, it's not the most favorite part of my job at all, regardless. Some people think it's like, we want to be there. We want to be asking the tough questions. But I think as a woman, like, we're nurturers, we're carers, we take on people's emotions, and it's really tough to do. And after 6 years of that, it gets to be it weighs on you. I would say my job, it gave me an unfiltered lens into the dark side of humanity, and it forced me out of my own bubble. I feel like it's easy to kind of, as a news consumer, you can turn it off. You can choose to not read those stories. But when it's your day-to-day, you can't turn it off. You have to be there. I will say, though, my experience in news expanded my capacity to be empathetic. That's something that I've learned over the years. I saw every day that tomorrow's not promised. And I was reminded far too often that we just don't know when our time's up. Tragedy can happen at any moment. There would be fatal accidents I'd go to, and the girl in the car was the same age as me. That's tough. It's tough, especially knowing early on, like before family knows, that they have to deal with that day. It's a tough pill to swallow. Couple that with my experience in a newsroom. So I worked awful hours, honestly, 4 to 5 hours of sleep was like lucky for me. For 5 years, I worked every weekend and every holiday. And of course, I am married and I have a son. It's hard. It's hard, especially Christmas was the worst, not just because it was my birthday. I never got my birthday off. I could never request it off. But also just knowing like my son was waiting at home until I got home to like open presents. And for whatever reason, that day was like the worst for me. Like every other holiday, I'm like, it's okay. I'll be late. I'll be tired when I get there. But like Christmas was the worst. So anyway, I got to the end of my contract. For the longest time, I actually thought I was going to do photography. That's a passion of mine as well. And that's kind of where I was going. I knew I was at the end of my 3-year contract. I knew I did not want to do news anymore, just because it would have been signing up to do the same work every weekend, every holiday, probably for another 3 years. And I kind of came to a point in my life, I'm sure many of you have been there, where it's just like, I can't sign up for that again. Or like, I need a change. And I was at that point. So thought I was going to do photography. Was like, had my business plan going, thought that's the way I was going to go. And then one day, I'm pretty sure I was sitting at my desk at work when I was doing it. I was kind of like mindlessly scrolling on Instagram. Luckily, as reporters, we're allowed to be on social media. Nobody questions like that you're not getting work done if you're on social media. And I came across a post from my friend Sydney. And it was a picture. She had just visited Nashville, and she was in front of like a flower truck. I didn't even know what that was, but she looked happy. I'm like, this is darling. Like, this is the sweetest thing I have ever seen in my life. So I like go on to, it's Amelia's flower truck, went on there, and like all the pictures, like everyone just looks so happy. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this little truck is bringing so much joy to this community. Like, and anybody who's been to Nashville, like they make a point to go to that truck. Yep, it's adorable. It's adorable. So anyway, I wanted to know more about it. I immediately started looking up to see if we had anything like it in our area, and I didn't find anything. I'm like, all right, this has to happen. And I don't know, it just would not leave me. I'm like, and I think at that point, more on a selfish note, I think I needed that joy, because I just knew, like, I don't know where I'm going. I just know I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't take on, like, this heavy blanket of just, like, horrible things and seeing that and experiencing that every day. So I needed that. But also, I think when you report in a community, every community I was a part of, like, you feel so a part of it. And I don't know. I feel like you see what your community is experiencing every day, tragedies, and it's, I don't know, seeing that dark side of it, I wanted to bring some light into our community, in whatever way I could. For a while, I thought it was going to be photography, just helping to like empower people, help people to see themselves, how other people see people. I love photography for that. But yeah, I think the flower truck like was just such a simple way to do what I've always wanted to do, which is to have a positive impact. I did that for a long time in reporting when I felt like I was kind of fading out of that career. This was a way to do that in a new way. So the year we moved back home, my husband actually bought me this book. It's called Business Boutique. Anybody familiar with Christy Wright? She is on Dave Ramsey's team. And this book is amazing. It's a woman's guide for making money doing what she loves. So she actually helps people turn like their hobbies and their passions into full-fledged businesses. And I actually went through this book when I thought I was going to do photography. So I actually didn't go through this book when I did the flower truck, but a lot of things kind of carried over in terms of what I wanted to do. So what I learned from her is she made me realize that fear will always be a part of the process, no matter what you do. We never get over it. We just face it again and again and again, and we don't let that get in the way of our dreams. She also taught me, and I think this is something you can struggle with too, don't worry about reinventing the wheel. Realize that regardless of if someone is already doing what you want to do, don't let that stop you. Don't let that get in the way, because you have customers that only you can relate to. People who want what only you can offer simply because you are you. And I know I'm not solving world problems every day, but I believe I believe if enough of us are doing small things, using our gifts and our talents to contribute to the good in this world, it will inspire the next person to do the same, and the next person to do the same. And that is how I feel we make change. Another thing I learned from Christy Wright is that we have to get past the idea that our dreams are selfish desires. I think women struggle with this more than men. We experience mom guilt, if there's parents in the room. And chasing a dream sometimes means sacrificing that time with family. But when you come to the realization that that dream isn't just for you, but that there may be someone out there waiting for what it is that you have to offer, that changes your mindset. And I think that you need to share your gifts, share your talents, because the world needs more of that. We need more people doing what they enjoy doing, what they're passionate about, what they love about, because you do it with all of your heart, right? How many times have you been stuck in a job where you're just like, I don't enjoy this at all. Like, this is just a paycheck for me. But when somebody's like living in their strengths and doing what they love to do, I just feel like it makes for a better world. It truly does. And I believe each and every one of us has a dream or dreams planted in us specifically for a reason. And sometimes our life circumstances and things we've experienced bring that out. So I wanted to just read a couple things real quickly. Things that I've kind of highlighted in this book that really stuck out to me. One thing she talks about is fear wants you to live a small life. But God never created us or called us to live a small life. God wants us to have a life and have it abundantly. And I think that applies in business. The other thing, and I struggle with this too, even being here right now, and I have a big speech I have to make next month. I'm like, imposter syndrome, anybody? Yeah. Is when someone feels undeserving of their achievements and is afraid of being found out. Those who often fear being found out actually have a tendency to attribute their success to external factors like luck or helping hand. Unsurprisingly, women tend to do this more often than men, who are more likely to attribute their success to a combination of internal factors: grit, talent, brains, sheer hard work. Ironically, though, those who suffer the most from imposter syndrome are high achievers. Somebody sitting on the couch eating Cheetos probably isn't worrying about whether they have standards to live up to, you know? Nothing wrong with that, though. I mean, I can be that person, too, some days. But another thing was the options and opportunities and needs in this world are infinite. And I believe there's a place for your unique voice and passion and talent, that thing you want to do, the calling on your heart and the dream that keeps nagging at you. It's a job that only you can do. Whatever business you run, there's a reason that that is set in your heart and that you are so passionate about that. Hang on to that. And I say that because a big thing that I think is important is knowing what your why is. If you don't know that, I beg of you to figure it out. For me, what my why is, I want people to feel seen. You could just say, I just love flowers and I just want to go sell flowers. Like, everybody thinks I just love flowers. It's not that. Like, truly, it's not just that. I love what flowers do for people, and it all goes to living with intention, and I love seeing more people do that. And if I can make or provide an opportunity for people to do more of that, like, that is my goal at the end of the day, is to help people feel more seen, and I get to do that through others. Oftentimes people are buying these flowers spontaneously. I just pop up in a new place every day, and people are like walking out there, you know what? Someone's having a bad day today. My friend, she actually had a doctor's appointment. She's nervous about the results that are going to come out today. I want to distract her from that for a moment. I'm going to buy her some flowers. Like, these are real things people have said to me, and it's amazing. I love seeing people just do selfless things like that. I also believe we all have a responsibility to what we put into this world, our energy, our attitude, kindness toward others. I enjoy having the daily opportunity to spread joy through flowers and giving people the spontaneous opportunity to do that. I also want to encourage others to live and love intentionally. And I really do think, like, it doesn't have to be a grand gesture every time, like just showing somebody you love them. I think a single stem can brighten someone's day, just knowing that you stopped that day and thought about them because they've been going through something in their life. I think that's beautiful. And why flowers? One thing I will tell you, my first job in Traverse City, Michigan, I did a store in the state hospital there. They turned into like a mercado. Beautiful place, amazing. And I commented on the architecture and the natural light and everything when I was there talking with one of the owners. And he told me a little bit about the guy who actually started it, Dr. Munson. And he believed in the moral treatment movement, which at the time was revolutionary. This is, again, a state mental hospital. Central to this belief was Dr. Munson's philosophy that beauty is therapy. He said if patients were surrounded by a beautiful environment from the architecture to the campus grounds, their emotional and mental state would be uplifted. Dr. Munson made an effort to ensure that patients felt at home rather than trapped in an unfamiliar place. And fresh flowers and plants, decorated dining tables and resting areas, artwork and inspirational sayings adorn the walls of the wide hallways. And I just think that's so beautiful. And there's been studies done, I could have dove into that too, about just having flowers in a room, how much it changes your mood. Patients' rooms, there's been studies about that too. And I just think it's simply like, for me, I think it's a beautiful thing that God gave us to appreciate every day. And being able to share that with others is awesome. So one thing that you could do for me is just figure out, if you don't know already, what your why is. I'd love to hear some of your whys too today as we're talking. Something else to think about too. Before I left my job, I went to Tennessee. Jeremy Cowart, are you guys familiar with him at all? He's a photographer, very famous photographer now. He's out of Nashville. He had this thing called Liminal Nights. He invited creatives to come and just kind of, it's just like be inspired, essentially. And I remember one thing that really stuck out to me when he was talking was the top 5 regrets of the dying. And I'll give them really quickly. One is, I wish I had let myself be happier. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And I wish I'd had the courage to live a life more true to myself and not what was expected of me. I think those are things that I wrestle with every day, even as a business owner. I think it's easy to get caught up in the go, 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 grind, 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 do all the things. Those are important things. I think especially coming from people who are reflecting on life in their probably final hours. So, didn't expect to end on that note. That was kind of sad. But anyway, yeah, truly I think knowing what your why is so important, and I don't want to take up too much more time.
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. Well, real quickly, so are you guys familiar with Simon Sinek? Awesome. Okay, cool. Then you know all about the why and why that's important. For anyone who doesn't, so the idea of why has become more popular in recent years, largely because of the work of Simon Sinek, the best-selling author of Start With Why. I'm currently going through that book now. So in his talk, he shares a brilliant idea that has transformed how businesses market their products and services. He says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I truly do feel like that is why the truck has been so successful this year. Because everyone who's reached out to me on social media has said, like, thank you for helping me to surprise someone today with flowers. Or, like, one guy emailed me and completely came out of nowhere. I was trying to find the email last night. But just simply had stopped by my truck, and we talked for a little bit, and later he said, thank you so much for your sacrifice. And really, I don't view it that way at all. I think maybe leaving a corporate career, people could view it as that because you're leaving something comfortable and stable. But he was just saying, like, thank you so much for just doing this. And really, that's what I love about the truck. Somebody could go order flowers online. Somebody could go stop at Kroger and get them cheaper probably than what you're going to get at my truck. But I think it's the experience. And I think it's that reminder of, like, what we all want the world to look like. And I love to disrupt, like, our reality sometimes. You know, because I feel like we just drone, go to work, go home. But I tell you, like, the smile, like, this is why I do it. When people come by my truck, they're like, oh my God! And I'm like I'm used to it now. I don't get scared. Like, that is so cute. And just the fact, like, even if they don't buy anything, the fact that just brightened their day, like, oh my God, this is adorable. Like, I don't know. I just feel like we should live a life like that. And, like, that should be a motivation in whatever you do. Just, like, disrupt or, like, do something unexpected and be intentional about it. Because I feel like people love that. I think it just shows another side of, like, our humanity. Like, it's not just a traditional, like, give me your credit card transaction. Okay, we're done. Bye. But, you know, I know I make an effort when people do buy from me. You know, I strike up a conversation because I want to remember you when you come back. And a lot of people come back. Like, that's the fun part, is having regulars and feeling like people have bought into what you're about. And truly, I think that's why knowing your why is so important.
Great. Cool. So if you want to ask some questions, or does anyone from the audience have questions?
Any questions
for me?
Yes.
Just curious, where all do you take your truck, and how did you find the truck? I'm not going to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's okay. Find that truck and go, I'm going to paint it this and do this.
So crazy, and this is like, I don't know. I'm a believer, and I think it's crazy how this has come about. Like, I got I just had a transaction. Oh, sorry, I had to hear that. Actually, someone I've been waiting for them to pay the invoice, but I love her. It's okay.
She's successful.
Yes. I found my truck on Craigslist. It was it's a 1965 spring special. They only made 2,000 to 2,500 of this truck. I got a crazy deal on it. It was just dumb luck. Actually, I had saved it as one of several I was looking at, and the ad was gone. Thank God I screenshotted that guy's number, because I was like, oh, where'd it go? And he actually had someone else put the ad up for him. He was up in Michigan. And I called him. I'm like, did you sell the truck? Because it's not on there anymore. He's like, no, we still have it. It just expired. Like, the ad expired. But crazy thing, it's a 1965 spring special, which means it was poppy red and it had white trim down the side, which is like really rare to find in good condition. When I bought the truck, crazy, my mom had a calendar. She works for a trucking company over in Northside. She had a calendar up. The picture was my truck the month I bought it, like literally my truck, and she framed it for me. And what's crazy, her fiance also had like a model scale of that truck that he used to have as a kid. So when you come to my truck, if I have it, it holds my business cards. People are like, oh, where'd you find that? And I'm like, crazy story. I did not find it. So yeah, I found the truck on Craigslist, kind of went up on, literally it was like it was my Friday, which was like Monday. And my uncle, he had just retired, and he's like, I'll go with you if it's close enough, like if you need to check out a truck. He restores old cars. And I was like, I think I want to do this. And it was crazy. Like, I recorded that on video. That's like part of the story on YouTube. But like literally got in. I'm like, oh my God, like we're going up. And if this works, like I'm bringing this truck home. Like, this has to happen now. And I'm sure you guys have all experienced that some way in your former business. Like, this is happening. It's when you realize, like, okay, fear's out of the way. Like, let's just do it. And imagine if I had chosen not to. And imagine if you had chosen not to do what you want to do. Like, I'm sure all of you have those stories with your customers or, like, your clients. You're just like, I am serving, like, my community in this way, and in the way that only I can do it.
Secret, everything that happens at Lemons and Limes stays in Lemons and Limes. It's like Vegas down there. So good morning. It is so great to meet you guys, and I'm really appreciative for the opportunity to come and share the story of Lemons and Limes today with you. I'm Wendy Knight. I live here in Loveland. I own Lemons and Limes Boutique, just like Katie said. I'm also a mom, a wife, sister, daughter, all those other things, finder of lost things, boo-boo fixer, grocery getter, the whole thing. Whatever needs to happen is what I'm going to do. So the evolution of Lemons and Limes is a twisty road. So I'm gonna navigate us down this twisty road as best I can. I actually kind of had a hard time putting this together so that it would make sense, just because there's been so many stops and starts and changes to what it is today, which looks like, oh, that must be so fun down there to have a shop in downtown Loveland, but that actually is sort of a small part of the journey of Lemons and Limes. So I have a lot of ideas. I've always been that way. I've got a lot of ideas. I'm always thinking about things. I drive everybody nuts around me because I'm like, what if we do this? Or what if we do that? So I'm the kind of person, like, I get an idea and I'll like think about it for a while, process through it, maybe do a little research, a little reading, and then kind of ease into it. And this all really started when I was about 9 years old. My grandmother gave me this like really awesome olive green vinyl suitcase, and it had, I remember, I wish I still had it, but I adored the suitcase. It had this beautiful like silky floral lining and all these little like gathered pockets in it. Like only a grandmother would find this treasure for you. And it just begged to be filled with important things. So what did I do? I went right into pot holder production and filled up my suitcase with pot holders and I started selling pot holders at family events, I think for like 25 cents, 50 cents. So I was hustling pot holders at Thanksgiving and Christmas. But a really significant change in the story is when my mom taught me to sew. I'm a horrible sewer, by the way, but I learned just enough to start making hair scrunches. So the transition happened at that point. I don't know if I was 9, 10, 11, I don't know. We were reliving this with my mom last night. But the way she tells the story is very funny. She's like, everyone got hustled for hair scrunches, everybody. So I started sewing hair scrunches. Not this time, obviously. They've been popular way back when, before, in the 80s. And there was like no turning back. Like I kept that suitcase stocked full of hair scrunches. I remember, loving creating them. I would try different sizes. I would try different like strengths of the elastic to see how I could get it to grip. And the best part was choosing the fabrics. Oh, how I loved when I would have enough money that I'd be able to go to the fabric store with my mom and choose some fabrics, or my grandma would give me scraps or something like that. So that's really the beginning, way back when. But fast forward, you get through high school. I went to undergrad at UC. I began my career post-college, and it landed eventually in healthcare. So I usually start my talk, anytime I talk, say, hi, my name is Wendy. I'm a recovering healthcare executive. I'm here to talk to you today. You can't be creative. It's okay. But I was on that path of what I thought I needed to do with my life, which was climb the ladder, get the promotion, work harder, travel more, put extra effort into my corporate career. I was really focused on that glass ceiling and like giving that a good poke with a sharp stick and seeing what I could do. And I worked and I worked. I really did. It's just kind of how I spent that time. I still, with all of that though, through all that time, I really yearned for something to funnel my creative side. Excel spreadsheets are fun, obviously. They're fun, but not that fun, So I needed that. That's the part that like sparks the joy in me and gets me excited and all that. So after college, I had started my little paper company. And when I say I started my paper company, it wasn't a real company. Like it was like my hobby hustle is what I called it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was completely self-taught. I would drive up to Beaver Creek to this magical place called Marco's Paper and like get to know paper. Okay, like touch all the papers. See what would work in a printer. I would just start exploring. I started following. I just love stationery. I love something with a pretty monogram or a nice personalization. So I just self-taught and explored and did what felt right. That's it. I don't have any formal training in the arts or anything. I have formal training in much different things, which we'll talk about. So eventually I opened an Etsy shop that became like, Etsy. Everyone's probably familiar with Etsy now. Yeah, the Etsy craze. Like, that was the Etsy craze. So I kind of came in after the Etsy craze started my little stationery, took my terrible pictures of my products, like uploaded it. I thought I was so fancy because I figured out how to, like, you know, link my bank account to Etsy and, you know, pay my fees, and every once in a while I'd have a sale and I got paid. I just really enjoyed it. It was kind of my escape from spreadsheets and balance sheets and operating reports. So, you know, as you move on through life, then like the real nitty gritty stuff started happening. I married Doug. My husband's here in the back. Hi, Doug. Doug and I got married. We dated for a while. We bought a house in Loveland, got married, and then we had twins. We had the wonderful surprise of a lifetime where we became pregnant with twins. They're now 8, boy-girl twins. Right before that, I had started my master's degree because, you know, what would I do with any free time? So I continued, like, keep climbing that corporate ladder. I remember I got my, like, really big, like, turning point promotion when I was newly pregnant. And it was tough. Like, I just decided to still go for it and, like, not disclose that I was pregnant. I found out, I think, in the process it was twins. Like, I was, like, the only thing I knew was to, like, keep going for this promotion. Everything else was chaos, complete chaos. I didn't know what I was in for. So I really felt like I needed to prove that I could do it all at that point. You know, I could keep on the corporate trajectory. I could be this, like, total boss of a mom of twins. I, you know, could keep a clean house. No. Yeah. You know, yeah. Yeah, that's an evolving dream. So I was kind of in that part of life, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but, like, earlier on, like, I knew exactly how it was all going to play out. No one could tell me anything different. Like, I knew how my life was going to be. You know, I was going to go to work. I was going to come home, have all these, like, magical moments with my family, go to bed, have, like, full nights of sleep, you know, all these things. No. And then the reality is most of the time I felt like I was spending, like, surviving the day, praying to get to bedtime, the reality in one piece. And then for a long time, maybe pray to have 3 hours of sleep in a row, something like that. So the reality was much different than this vision that I don't know that I necessarily created in my head, but probably was created and put there for me. So as this goes on, I'm learning to be a mom, you know, evolving as a wife and friend and all this stuff. The stationery orders kept coming in from Etsy, sometimes more, sometimes none. And I love to make them, but at that point I just couldn't commit to much more. It was too hard. One thing that started happening, though, is that for, like, Christmas, I was, like, researching a piece of equipment, and all of a sudden I got that for Christmas from Doug. Like, he'd be like, just, here you go. Here's that really cool paper pattern machine you wanted, you know? Or, I know, like, things just, you know, slowly and steadily, it just kind of built and built. So at that point, you know, it was spreadsheets and bottles. I finished my master's degree. That was the miracle of all miracles that we were able to complete that. Doug did beat me by 1/10 of a point on our GPA because we did do the same degree at a time. But, I mean, that's only because I had, like, 4-month-old twins that I didn't have a better grade. But that part of my life completely humbled me. Our twins were born early. I went into labor at 30 weeks. They were born at 31 weeks, and, like, everything changed from there. Everything. It completely changed what I wanted out of life. Before that, my parents were both diagnosed with cancer pretty close together. My mom beat it and is still with us today. My dad fought it for 12 years and passed away at the end of last year. And those were really defining moments as to what I wanted my life to be like from there on out. This conversation I was having internally, so something that was just kind of, like, churning in my head, was like, what do I really want to do? You know, by that point, like, I've got some good solid years in corporate America. I've been through enough, like, buyouts, restructuring, layoffs. I mean, you name it, the whole typical thing. I worked in pharma, I worked in hospice, I worked in home health. It's tough. Those are brutal industries to be in. And it was constantly changing. So I really started having this internal conversation. Am I doing what I love? am I even making a difference? Is what I'm doing, does it matter? Like, I was really looking at myself with a whole new set of eyes. You know, does my career really light my soul on fire? Am I giving my family enough, or do they just get kind of like the tired leftovers at the end of my work day? Or are they really getting like a good Wendy? Are they just getting like I said, what's left over? And then I kept saying, like, I just had this like kind of epiphany, like, who the hell am I trying to please? Like, you know, is it my boss? Is it the thought of that was in my head of that I needed to keep this climb going and I need to prove that I could do it all, even if it wasn't really fulfilling me? And that was going on quite a bit in my head. But I was inching closer to 40. And I remember thinking, well, like, how in the hell did that happen? Like, I was just like 22, like living it up, you know, eating whatever I want, drinking regular Cokes, like, you know, staying out late, getting up and going to the work next day, and I could bounce back, like all those great things. Like, how did this happen? Life was really flying by really quickly. I had really actively been reviving my stationery business about this time in my life. I really love it. I won a contest at my corporate job and won a $500 like Visa gift card, and I used that to buy a printer. The printer of my paper nerd dreams. Like, this was the printer I would never spend my money on. I was like so overjoyed with this printer because this is what was going to change things. Like, I could do things now. I could make things that were at a different level. Doug and I kept talking. The conversation was continuous about maybe this really could be something more. Like, maybe I could even do other things that I really love to do that are a hobby. Maybe I could really start design and produce a jewelry line. You know, and he kept encouraging, my family kept encouraging me. I don't even know how long we talked about it, because I'm the person, like, I will stew about it for a really annoying long time. Like, I will think about it and think about it and think about it. And usually you'll hear the consistent part of the story is usually that Doug is the one that was like, just do it. I don't know if it's to get me to stop talking about it or if he's like 110% behind it, but he's like, just do it. Just give this a shot. What's the worst that can happen? So I'll never forget, I was sitting on the couch. I like made up my mind finally to like really go after what this like online boutique might be that has my stationery, has some jewelry, maybe some gifts. I sat on the couch with my daughter, Lauren, and with my laptop and just started like researching it. Just started figuring out, what do I need to do to create a business in the state of Ohio? How do I do a website? How do I do any of this? And that was really the day that Lemons and Limes came to be. I might have been called that before, but that was the day, like, we bought the domain. I mean, that feels official when you buy a domain. You know, that big $18, you know, I locked that in. I'm like, should it be Lemons Limes Boutique? Should it be Lemons and Limes Boutique? Should it be something else? You know, you go through these struggles. Can you guys relate to that? You're like, this is a big deal. This is the biggest $18 deal I'm going to make in a long time. Like, I need to get this right. And then I would like type it in. I'm like, oh, it's not available. Let's try this. And people always ask, like, why lemons and limes? And at that point, like, our bantel was decorated with lemons and limes. Like, our house was really decorated, citrusy. I always cooked with it. I love a good, like, body scrub with lemon in it. Like, I just enjoy lemons and limes. It's a perfect cocktail garnish. Anything made with limes, like margaritas, usually are good. It made sense. It had followed some of, like, the branding stuff to have, like, an L and an L. Like, it was easy to say. It was different enough that people would be like, why lemons and limes? You know, why? I'm curious. So it checked enough boxes and we went for it. I bought the domain, started the website. It was born, and I started the business with about $200 of my own money. So I took that $200. I was really nervous about spending that $200. Boy, was I nervous, because at that point, I mean, money's tight. You've got a family, you've got all these responsibilities. So I officially launched our first website, which was a total disaster. You couldn't buy a thing off of it. Nothing worked right. It looked terrible. But that's what it was. I started, right? And then I did more research and kept connecting with people, and I launched our second website, and I host with Shopify now. And Shopify has been a great partner for us since the beginning. And that's the website you see today when you go to lemonslimesboutique.com. That's that website. So it's always evolving, but that basic structure is what happened at that point. I bought a logo from Etsy. Seemed like the easy thing to do. And I did that I had that logo for a while. I think that's the logo still in my Etsy shop, which has like 2 things in it. Because I keep it alive. I'm not ready to say goodbye to it, right? Used it for a while. Didn't feel right because just didn't feel right. So I dumped it and I designed my own. I didn't know how to design my own. But once again, I just sat down and I figured it out. As I'm sure all of you do for a lot of different aspects of your business. So really, I spent every free minute I could reading, learning, networking, connecting, just like we're doing today. I asked a lot of questions, try things out, had to really overcome my fear of failing. And that was a big lesson for me at this point, was I just had to try things and know if it didn't work, it was okay. It just means it got me one step closer to something that might work. Type A, never want to fail, always want to make others happy was the person that I was. So I just kept building the website, improved it constantly, learned a lot about the technology, and just worked solely as an online boutique for 4 years. Really built our following on Facebook back when we really just had Facebook, it's crazy. Like 4 years ago, we just had Facebook and we didn't have all this other stuff. Maybe Instagram was a thought at that point in someone's head, but it certainly wasn't around. Had a Facebook group, built a Facebook business page, and then as Facebook became more sophisticated, I kind of went along with that as well. And so Facebook has been a great friend to Lemons and Limes Boutique as well as we've evolved. We've played by their community standards precisely, or at least I've tried to, and they offer us a lot of support as well in retargeting, branding, ads, and stuff like that too. So anybody that wants to hear more about that, totally separate conversation, but I'm happy to help with that. So, I really used every resource I could find. I started with $200. And as I would sell some things, then I would have a little bit more money to put back in, and just kept building and building. I really have always tried to dedicate 45 minutes a day to research and learning. Now, that can be scrolling through Pinterest. That can be on Instagram. That could be trend spotting. That could be having a conversation or a chat with somebody that was trying to also start their business that we could learn from each other. Whatever it was, it didn't have to be, a formal, studying a book or taking an online course or anything, but something that made me feel like I was putting something into the business. So for the next few years now, when I wasn't working my corporate healthcare job and my babies were sleeping, I learned about website development, some coding. The day I actually figured out how to code something, you would have thought I won the Mega Millions. I thought it was so great. I was like, this is so amazing. It was really hard. So of course now my 8-year-olds are probably close to being able to do this, and I'm really counting on that. So I keep putting them into all these STEM and technology extra classes, because I'm really counting on that free workforce to help me. Email campaigns, influencer marketing, buying, trend spotting. And I just made a ton of mistakes, and I just kept going, and I just had to keep overcoming that voice in my head that was like, you can't make a mistake. This has to be perfect. Everybody's watching, all that stuff. Because that's what really was playing in my head. But I just kind of forced myself to get past it. So probably the most important lesson I learned through all of that was just to connect, a lot like what we're doing today. Connect with like-minded people. Talk about your challenges. Maybe someone's been there and they can save you the hassle of learning the hard way yourself. And seek out people that will invest energy into you in your business. Take the time to maybe make a connection or an introduction for you. And don't be afraid to say no. And if it's not something that's really moving you forward or propelling you forward, to say it's okay to walk away. And that's really hard for me. I was really fortunate to have a tribe of women encouraging me along the way, whether it was aunts, my sister, my mom. It kind of started with my grandma in that green vinyl suitcase, right? Mm-hmm. Filling it up with homemade scrunches. So now let's fast forward to 2018. Let's get to the really interesting part. I was getting more consistent orders, so I actually needed some help packing orders. I was doing more Facebook group sales, doing some like events with other boutiques. We started collaborating together, really growing our following. My cousin came over one night a week and helped. We did all of it from my dining room table. So this business was literally built with $200 at our dining room table. Oh my God, inventory was in the basement. It grew to the guest bedroom, shipping supplies in the garage. The foyer was filled with boxes. It was getting really nuts and was really stressing everybody out. I could never get it clean. People would come in, like, oh my God, my mom would come in, my mother-in-law. I can say this. Either one of them would come in and be like, I don't even know how you live in this place. I'm like, well, we're doing it, okay? We're making it happen, it's okay. Everyone calm down a little bit. We know it's messy. We're trying our best. We're raising babies and building a business here. So there were some days... I should do that. Actually, you know what? I think I am going to do that. Now, that's a great idea. I was sort of getting worried we were going to lose one of the kids in like the packing materials and boxes and stuff, because they to this day still love to play in boxes. And I'm like, they would like close themselves up in a box and have like little peepholes out, and they just, didn't want their toys, just want to play with the boxes. So I'm like, are we going to ship a kid to somewhere? Like, I feel like this is out of control. And it was really taking its toll on me and Doug, and just the general happiness in our house. Like we would walk in and we didn't feel like the good vibes weren't there. It was just too much stress, too much. And then like we're trying to put the kids to bed, and my cousin Ashley would be trying to ship orders, and Lauren would be having a meltdown, and and I'd be trying to like answer a question on an order for her, and it just, yeah. This is also about the time I started exploring my love of Oregon Pinot Noirs, by the way. So coincidentally, that hobby started around this time. So anyway, around this time, there were some pretty significant things that really changed the course of Lemons and Limes and what it is today. I knew that I wanted to run my business differently. Like I finally had the confidence to know that I didn't need to be like everybody else, and I didn't need to do it like that ebook I read, or I could figure this out. Like I could make it so that I had enough time to be with my friends and be a mom and be a wife and go on vacations and still somehow squeeze this in. Not that I did it right all the time, or still do it right all the time, but I knew that I wanted it to be different. I believed in collaboration over competition, and that's been one of the most important principles of Lemons and Limes, that women working together can accomplish a lot more, so much more than if we're alone. And that went for other boutique businesses that were trying to do the same thing I was. So there were some of us, I saw them online, saw that they were doing their thing on Facebook, and we just connect. Just throw it out there and connect and start building our businesses together. Because here's the thing, and we all know this, and Doug, even though he's the only guy here, he knows this too, that we are resourceful, we are hardworking, we are problem-solving masterminds. No one can like cook dinner, fix a boo-boo, like handle a client situation, all at the same time. And I just connected with others that were like-minded, building their businesses, and a lot of them were also raising their families at that time, so they could kind of understand that struggle I was in at that point. I studied time management. I studied it like it was my hobby. Friends, we would share what worked, what we didn't work. I love planners. Oh, I love planners. Paper planners. I have a sample of a planner that I designed that in the next couple of years, I am doing this planner. I'm saying it in front of all you guys, so I hold myself to it. I'm going to do this planner. I started studying like time blocking. It's something I still study and I still try to do. Again, not perfect. It's an evolution, but I try and dedicate, get focused on one thing at a time. Surrounded myself with people that wanted me to succeed at that point. They will, help you get going through the tough times. You said you were here with your friend. That's awesome. That's terrific. I'm lucky that I get to surround myself with people like my husband that has been really supportive. My aunts, my sister, she's in the back. She started her own business too, so she wanted to hear what everybody had to say today. So about this time, I was starting to buy more inventory, and my challenges changed. So not all the kids stuff, that was still happening. All that chaos was still happening. But my business challenges changed. I was starting to have a really hard time getting what I wanted to kind of take the boutique to the next level. Because I was small, I was an online boutique, and that's like bottom tier in the boutique world, right? I didn't have the cash flow to buy large orders of things, so I needed companies that would give me small order minimums. I didn't have a storefront, and you need to have a brick and mortar storefront for a lot of lines to allow you to carry them. People just wouldn't work with me or give me the time. And I really didn't like the way we were treated. I didn't like that. I thought it was really crummy because I knew that I was putting a lot of effort into my business, and I kind of wanted some respect for me and my friends for that, you know? So, we were like, we are not insignificant. We may not spend tens of thousands of dollars a year, but our businesses are not insignificant. And they put a lot into our community, and our businesses are, supporting all of these things. Like, how do you guys like sponsor? I'm sure you all get asked to like sponsor things, or, donate a basket, donate services, things like that. I mean, those are significant investments in the community for sure. So anyway, it was a big deal. I remember it was a really big deal if I could buy $300 worth of inventory at a time. Like that, to put it in perspective of where I was at. And I really felt like my dollar should matter just as much as anybody else's. So I decided, again, Doug helped convince me. He's the one that was like, just do it. Just do it. Like, I talk about it incessantly, process it, work it through, and then be like, just do it. So there's a lot of this, that's a significant pattern in my story. But I took $350 and I decided I am starting my own wholesale brand. We're going to do this different. We're going to do this different. It doesn't need to be the way it's always been. Startup boutiques deserve to have a little bit better of a partner. So I'd been talking about it. I researched, I networked, I tried to survey for what people wanted, learned where the opportunity was in the market and what niche I could fill. I was finally ready. I finally hit the send button. I think Doug actually pushed my finger to the computer at that point, for a $350 investment to start production on my very first batch of Loveland Lane hair coils, which I'll show you. So, and this was a product that solved a problem. At that point, Lauren, was she 3, 4, something like that? She had hair like Dolly Parton. It was so difficult. And we called her the honey badger because she had the temperament of a honey badger. If you ever know what a honey badger is, she just she's the loveliest little person, but when she is decided on something or is mad about something, you better watch out. And her hair was that thing. So we had tears every morning getting ready for school, trying to pull ponies and pigtails and stuff. And I'm like, this should not be like this. I don't know how it should be, but it should not be like this. So we designed and worked with production to create these hair coils, which I have some for everybody, but they're a no tangle and no fuss hair coil. So that they don't mess up, they're just lovely for your hair. So anyway, Lemons and Limes Wholesale, which is called Loveland Lane, began. It was born. I had ideas for products, things that solve problems, things people needed in their lives. I wanted boutiques to have a great buying experience. I wanted other small business owners to have access to things by the single unit. No big minimums to meet so that they could scale their business and protect their cash flow. I wanted to design. I wanted to make things again. I really wanted to pick out fabrics again. So we started with hair coils. We now have a full line of hair accessories, scrunches, headbands. Thank God the scrunches are back. No one is happier than me. Hair scarves. We branched into jewelry, bags, and gifts. And boy, do I love helping put jewelry together. So much money, so we did it ourselves. Doug learned how to do electrical work from watching YouTube videos. The twins helped. The twins helped. We had to rip down the ceiling. The twins would help stack up the tiles. Andrew swept. If you're coming through town, you may notice he's out sweeping the front sidewalk quite a bit. He likes to do that. He also likes to wave to people. He's the social. He's Mr. Party. He loves a good party. Anyway, we did the renovations for 3 months, and I moved wholesale in. Got our kind of act together on shipping because I was really worried about any interruption there, and then started building the retail out. We were lucky. Friends, family, local businesses encouraged us. would stop by with a beer every once in a while when they saw the lights were on really late. Gino at Tano was the very first, one of the owners of Tano. Tano's wife was one of the first people that reached out to us, and I will never forget it. So I'm like, okay, we're here, we put a sign up, we're working on it, we don't know what we're doing, but she sent me a message, and I'll never forget how good that felt for another business to like welcome us into kind of like the downtown Loveland family down here. So let's fast forward to today. I know I'm running out of time. Lauren Lane's about a year and a half old. It serves over 900 retailers in North America. So we have 900 boutiques that are carrying my hair accessory and jewelry lines, which is awesome. Some of these boutiques, what really is exciting is when one of the boutiques like I love and I love to shop, like they sign up as a customer. I'm like, oh man, this is exciting. This is so exciting. Because I've been like a fangirl of theirs for so long. So we now employ some really amazing women that really make it all possible, that are the heart and soul of the operation. We have a makerspace event room, which is a focus in 2020. And as of December 17th, I left corporate America. I work 100% now on Lemons and Limes and Lauren Lane and growing our business. So thank you. I held on to that security blanket longer than I probably needed to, but it took me a while to decide the time was right. So today, Lemons and Limes is our happy place. I want it to be a place that you can walk into just to take a break from the stresses of your lives. You can find something to treat yourself, your girlfriends, your moms, your sisters, even your husbands. We have man things. Your kids are welcome. Your dogs are welcome. Everybody is welcome there. Doesn't matter. You are welcome at Lemons and Limes. So definitely stop by and get lost in the sense of carefully curated candles, feel good inside and out with beauty products, find an outfit that flatters your real body. I started apparel just a little while ago based on the requests of the community that we wanted real clothing for real women's bodies. So that's a big focus for us, is to get clothing that flatters all body types. You can find a gift that makes you laugh till you snort. Sounds like you and I might need to have a chat too. We love funny. We have like two personalities in Lemon Limes. There's like the girl power, positive, and then you go like just hilarious, snarky, hilarious, So the goal of Lemons and Limes is to be a destination, a place that you love to visit, where you like to bring your friends when they're here visiting you. In 2020, we also want it to be a place where you can get creative. You can take a class, you can make something beautiful, you can connect with your friends. We continue to support charities we all love. We have a lot planned, so follow with us on Facebook or Instagram. Be sure to stop by and say hello.
Thanks for being here. Like she said, my name is Allie. I actually grew up in Loveland, so we were just talking on the phone before this, but it's so exciting to see all the new businesses and everything that's happening around here. When I first started what I was doing, I was like, I just want to get out of Loveland, but now it's like I want to be here and I want to do what I'm doing now and be a part of Loveland. So I am a personal stylist and a blogger. So I actually am going to be talking kind of today about personal branding, but I'm also going to incorporate my personal story in that as well. So hopefully I can give you guys some tips and some new info, but I'm sure I can learn way more from you guys as well. The whole mom life, I'm going to be reaching out to you in a few years and be like, give me all the tips, because I don't know how you guys manage it, because I already feel like I'm done right now, and I'm like, when I have kids, that's going to be way more. So props to all of you guys that have kids and can manage that life. So you've probably all heard the stat that within the first 7 seconds, you make your first impression. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, but I'm sure most of you have heard about that in terms of physical appearance and your handshake and all of that. And that's still so important, but I kind of wanted to focus more about your digital first impression, because nowadays that's where a lot of your business is coming from. That's where people will see you for the first time. So if it is your website, or if you're utilizing social media or any of that, those are first impressions as well. So I would kind of consider it too, their first 7 seconds on their website, they're gonna decide if they're a fan of your business or not. So I kind of wanted to hit on that. I'll give you guys 5 tips that you can write down while I incorporate my story. So I think I've got a decent chunk of time right now. I won't take the entire time to talk about it, so don't worry, but we'll leave some time at the end specifically for your questions. So please make sure you write anything down while I talk so that I can answer those at the end. And don't be afraid to ask any questions, because I know if you have a question, someone else in the room probably is wondering that same thing. So where I kind of started, I loved your suitcase story, and it kind of reminded me of like when I was younger, and I was at a volleyball tournament in Chicago, and I bought this bright yellow purse. And I remember my mom kind of being like, "You sure you like that one? It's a little bit different, like it's a little bit out there." And I was like, "Yeah, that's why I like it. Like I want to be different." And so I was very, very shy when I was younger. Just didn't like to talk a lot. But I feel like I was able to kind of speak through my style and what I was wearing. And so to me, that yellow purse was like my sense of confidence and how I can be bold without being like the most outgoing person in the room. And it was every year I wanted to repaint my bedroom and change my bedspread. So I think my mom wanted to kill me because I was like, all right, we're changing it again. And she's like, we painted it last year. But, and so talking about creativity as well is like, what's interesting is I would have never considered myself creative until about 2 years ago. And I would say that without even knowing you, that everyone in this room is creative because you're all trying to think of different ways to market your business, and you're all trying to think of ways that are outside the box and things that people haven't done. And so I think growing up, I was like, I'm definitely not creative, so I'm not going to do anything that's creative. I thought you had to be a painter or an artist, or you had to be a photographer. I was like, those are the only creative industries, but that's really not true. And that kind of changed the game for me. So to fast forward a little bit as well, in high school, I actually went to a private school, so I was wearing uniforms a lot. So I think that kind of, inhibited my fashion a little bit, because obviously I was just wearing the same thing every day. But I always knew that there was something there, except when I was 18 years old and deciding what I wanted to study, I was, held back with this thought of like, but doesn't every girl love fashion? And I know not everyone does, but it's kind of, you get that feeling that like every girl likes to just dress well, and fashion's fun. And so I was like, I don't really want to commit to a fashion major if I'm not sure that 10 years down the road I'm still going to really love it. So I actually fell in love with Miami University and their campus, and they didn't even have a fashion major. And so it was really between there and DAP was what I was deciding between. And I ended up going to Miami because I had heard girls who were able to pursue fashion with a marketing degree. And so I decided to study marketing because I really liked the business aspect. And I felt like that would take me further than just solely a fashion degree. And I was like, if I change my mind when I graduate, I can kind of do anything with marketing. So that just seemed like a safer route to me, I'd say. So when I was in college, it was like I knew that I was going to have all these business classes, and I knew my resume was going to be filled with marketing experience, but I still had fashion on my mind. And so I was like, what can I do to balance my resume so that if I graduate and I do want a fashion job, they won't turn me down because I only have a marketing degree. And so I started working at Nordstrom at the Kenwood Town Center in college. And funny thing is I ended up working there because Old Navy wouldn't hire me. And so I was like, all right, I have no retail experience, like let me just start somewhere. And so I went into Old Navy and they didn't hire me. And then someone was like, what about Nordstrom? And I hadn't even shopped there at the time because I couldn't afford anything in there. And I was like, I guess I'll try it, but that seems a little bit like, I don't know, they wouldn't hire someone without any experience. And so I ended up getting that job, which was really cool. And that taught me a lot because being a sales associate there, they teach you how to run your own business, and it's all about having your own clientele and sending them a personal thank you card after they shop with you. And so that was a really great experience to have while being in college. And after that, I would just work there seasonally when I wasn't in school. And so my junior year, I got an internship in Chicago, and it was with a startup company. And so it was marketing and fashion. And so that was really cool that I was able to find something that intertwined both of them. And when I went there, I had heard for the first time, I think this was about in 2014, I had heard about blogging, And at the time I was like, what in the world is that? I have no idea what that is. And so as a junior, I was kind of still leaning toward fashion, and I was like, I want to, what do I want to do specifically? So I was looking at styling, I was looking at merchandising and buying and that route. And so I ended up hearing about blogging, and I was like, I'm curious about what this is. And a girl I had known in Cincinnati just moved to Chicago to pursue blogging, and I was like, wait, you're moving cities to start a blog? Like, that's a big deal. Blogging must be, important, and it must be something that is like going to be new and become big. And so I actually got lunch with her and sat down and just kind of was like, what is blogging, and how did you move to a new city to start doing it? And honestly, it was a big leap of faith for her, and her parents may have helped her, live there, because she didn't even have a blog at the time when she moved, and you can't make money immediately. But she answered a lot of questions, and I kind of left that lunch just being like, well, why not? And as Wendy said, it was like, I didn't feel like it was the perfect time. I didn't have like much styling experience or writing experience besides like being in school, and I was kind of still somewhat shy, and I was like, what are people gonna think when I just am like, here I am and here's my blog, and I'm being super vulnerable on the internet and posting pictures of myself every day? Like, are people gonna think that's weird? Are they gonna question if my fashion and style is even good enough to be doing that? And so it's those negative thoughts that I feel like we've all probably dealt with and we've talked about, but it was like just overcoming that and being like, I'm going to start it. And if it fails, then I tried it. Like you said, what's the worst thing that could happen? And so I started thinking about business names, and I came up with a Style Breeze, because at the time I was trying to think, I wanted one word to be very like fashion focused, because I wanted them to know what my brand was as soon as they heard the name. So Style just kind of was all about fashion and personal style. Where Breeze came from is I wanted it to be related to me and my industry. So tip number one I have is that your business name represents like who you are as a person, but also the industry that you're in. And so I started thinking about like, how do people see me? What are words that my friends have used to describe me? And at that time, I was a lot younger, but they kept saying, you're so chill, was the words that they were using. And I think they just meant like, I'm pretty go with the flow when it comes to relationships, and when it comes to plans, I'm just like, yeah, I'll do whatever, I'll go wherever, just tell me where to be. And so they use that word a lot to describe me. And so that's kind of where Breeze came, is like the wind and the ocean breeze. But I also had heard from so many people that styling and getting dressed in the morning was like the toughest part of their day, and it was so draining, and it was like something that they didn't look forward to at all. And I really wanted to be able to inspire people, at least starting with my blog, that part of their day wouldn't be the toughest part of their day. And so I wanted it to be easier for them, and I wanted style to be more of like a breeze, and it was a fun part of their day and not the most dreaded part of their day. So after getting my name and starting my blog, I created a website, and same as Wendy, wasn't the best website ever. It was a good place to start. And I just kind of started taking pictures, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the bike trail, but there's a white looking house. I don't know if you guys know the business of it, but it's right there, and that's where I took a lot of my pictures. I would just stand up against that white wall, and my mom would come with my camera. And then we would do them in my backyard, because again, at that time I was still pretty shy, and I was like, and blogging wasn't big here, so people were kind of like, why is that girl taking pictures of herself? And I felt like I was just taking my senior pictures like all over again every time. So I think one of the best parts about my blog is I knew that it was already getting me out of my comfort zone. Like, I was already doing things that I wouldn't have wanted to do. And I can still say to this day that that's one of the best things that my business has brought, is like just getting me out of my comfort zone. And I feel like I'm a whole different person than when I started, because of how it's challenged me and those kind of things. So tip number 2 is like, don't be afraid to fail and challenge yourself. And so at this time I was, so I had actually just graduated college. And so all throughout college, all of my professors were saying, You're graduating from one of the best business schools in the country. You're going to have tons of job offers. You're going to be graduating making $60K right away. And so all 4 years, I'm like, all right, this is going to be easy. And senior year started coming to an end, and I still didn't have a job. And when I graduated college, I went back to Nordstrom, and I started working there, but I only wanted to work 3 or 4 days a week because I was leaving time to continue to apply for jobs and also work on my blog. And I took the job hunt very seriously. I was going, and still the big city was really on my mind. So I was going to Chicago, I was going to New York, and I was even open to working in LA. I really wanted to climb that corporate ladder. And at this point, I feel like I was pretty desperate. So I was like, I really want to do fashion, but if it's a marketing job, that'll help me too. Like either way, I just want a job. And I've worked hard for the past 4 years to get one, and so my professors told me it would be easy. And actually, the internship I did in Chicago, they offered me a job when I graduated, but they were going to pay me $25K in Chicago, and this was 2016, so it's like you can't live in Chicago. I was like, maybe if my parents lived there and I could just still live with them, like I could make it work. But so that was the only job offer that I got. And I got to a point where one company I interviewed with was called LaFleur. Is anyone familiar with them? No? Yeah? Okay. So I had an interview with them in New York, and it was for a styling position, and I had a referral there, and I was pretty confident. She kept telling me they loved me. I was pretty confident I was going to get the job, and it was the final round interview. I'd done a bunch of phone interviews already. And so I bought a plane ticket, and my parents are like, are you sure you want to spend money when you don't even know if you're going to get the job? And I was like, yes, because I'm confident that I'm going to get it, and that's what I need to do to end up in New York. My flight got canceled, and so I ended up taking the Greyhound bus 15 hours to New York. Yeah, it was rough. I always forget that I did that, and I'm like, that was a big accomplishment in my book. But yeah, I ended up having a whole row to myself, and I laid down and slept, and I didn't get off the bus. They would stop and like let you get off and go to the bathroom, and I didn't get off for all 15 hours because I didn't want to lose my spot of like all the seats. I was like, I would rather lay down and sleep than go to the bathroom. Yeah. That's how that was. So
business dedication.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah. And so I got to New York, and I felt like I had the best interview of my life. And I got home, and I got the email that they liked me, but they went with the other candidate. And so I would say that I had probably had over 20 final round interviews at that point. And that was super frustrating because I was like, I know that I'm good at what I do. I went to school for 4 years, but I also know that like marketing is competitive because it's fun. Well, most people think or some people think it's fun, I guess. So that kind of was like the big, like now I have a chip. I feel like my whole life has been like people will say no, and then I prove them wrong. And so that was my chip on my shoulder, I would say. So I had a blog for a year at that point. But the day that I got that email, I had ordered a desk, but I left it in the box because I was thinking that I was going to be driving it to New York. And I was like, you know what, this is it. And so I opened the box, I built it, and I just started like blogging all night. And I was like, because I want this to work out, and I don't know where it's going to take me, but I want to be able to look back and be like, I'm glad that I didn't go there, and I'm glad I didn't work for that company because this is much better. So that's kind of what happened post-graduation. But with my blog, I started to get like collaborating opportunities, and so people started reaching out, and I was getting free clothes, which was really exciting at my age to be like getting free clothes and not have to spend all my money on it. So that's kind of where it started, and 3 days a week when I wasn't at Nordstrom, I decided to live at home so that I could only work 3 days a week there, and then could like blog and work on my business the other 3 days. And so I started to get free clothes, which was great, but again, it wasn't like, it wouldn't pay rent or pay the bills or anything like that. So I then started a YouTube channel that I can't remember, I think it was the beginning of 2017, like literally January 1st was the day that I started it. I think I'm really big on dates because I actually started my blog, I bought the domain on my 21st birthday. And so it's like whenever these big dates come, I'm like, I'm doing it then. And so Yeah, I started my YouTube channel, and honestly, one of the reasons I started it again is because I knew that it was something that I wouldn't want to do, I wouldn't like doing it, and it would really get me out of my comfort zone. Like at this point, I was comfortable taking pictures. I could go and I would come on days when Loveland wasn't super busy, and I would try to go over there, and then I'd jump back in the car before anyone saw me. And so I was like, all right, I got the pictures down. I can do that. I can handle that. And then I was like, but a video, like I would feel so awkward talking in front of a camera. No one's in the room. But I think at that point I was like, I want to do whatever I can to make my business work. And again, I had told you guys seeing myself overcome different things is what inspired me to do more. And so I was like, if I can start a YouTube channel, that's something that would really get me out of my comfort zone. And honestly, fashion is so visual that at that point, writing really long blog posts had started to not make as much sense, because I was like, I know I'm not going to sit there and read 3 pages about why this shirt works with these jeans. Instead, I'd rather see a video of it on someone and them explain it. It's just more engaging. And so I knew that I kind of should stop writing as many blog posts, but start going more into videos. And so what was really big for me is consistency. That year when I started on January 1st, I decided that I was going to film a YouTube video or publish one every single Friday for an entire year, so for 52 weeks. And so I know there's kind of a battle of quality over quantity in terms of content. And I know it's so important to produce quality content, and that's something that I always wanted to do. But in this area, I knew that if I was going to be a perfectionist and say it's not good enough to publish, that I would never publish anything. So this goal for me was honestly quantity. I tried to make it as quality as I could, but the goal was to publish something every Friday. And so I did that. And so as a 23-year-old, a lot of my Friday nights were filming YouTube videos. And so a lot of my friends were out at the bars, but I was like, this is a goal that I made for myself. And it's so important for me to be consistent with it, and to just actually do something that I'm going to say I'm going to do. And for me at that point, it wasn't about how many YouTube followers I could get, or how many people watched my videos, or how many people subscribed, or if anyone paid me for a video. It was I just want to get 52 videos done this year, because that would be the biggest win for me. And so that kind of just went with tip number 2. Like I said, don't be afraid to fail and challenge yourself. So honestly, if you want to be as crazy as me, I would ask yourself, what's something that I know that would be really good for my business, but that I'm way too afraid to try, or that I'm way too scared to do, because I guarantee that it's not only going to improve your business, but it's also going to improve you and your confidence in yourself, because that's what I can say has worked for me. So tip number 3 I have is get as much experience as you can. And if you are starting your own business, this may be something you've never done before, or it may be something that you've been doing for a little bit. So for me, I had retail experience working at Nordstrom, and they actually let me do a lot of styling appointments there, even though I wasn't a stylist. So they saw the potential in me that I could do that, and so they were like, hey, we're going to start giving you appointments. And so I got to actually start personal styling people there. And they also saw my blog, and they saw the way that I could run social media accounts. And so Nordstrom also let me start running their social media account. So I was getting a lot of experience just in doing what I'm doing now, but I didn't know at the time that that's what I was going to be doing. I think I was still frustrated by the fact that I didn't get a job out of college, and all 6 of the girls I lived with moved to Chicago, and now 2 of them live in San Francisco. So they all were traveling and had these corporate jobs and were living in big cities. But I started to realize that I really liked what I was doing, and I saw the potential in doing it in Cincinnati, that there weren't a lot of people doing what I was doing here, and that this could become something big. And I did love Cincinnati. I think I just saw what other people were doing and got caught up in the fact that they were going to all these big cities, and then I was still in the city that I grew up with my whole life. And so then at Nordstrom, I got promoted to be a assistant manager, and I moved to the men's department. So I started getting styling experience with men, which I actually loved way more than I thought I would, because I'm sure you guys are all aware, but they find one pair of pants that they like, and they're like, I'll take all 5 colors, and we get commission. And so I was like, I only ever want to work with men again. And so that was, again, just more experience, but being an assistant manager required that I had to work there for full time, and so I couldn't just do my 3 or 4 days that I was doing before. But at the time, I needed to make more money financially, and so I was like, as long as I time manage, I can still handle everything. And so I was an assistant manager there. And then of March of 2018, my brother started his own marketing company, and started doing digital media, and he didn't go to school for marketing, and I did. And so I was like, wait, you're the one starting this business, but I'm the one that went to school for it. And at this time, I was thinking about moving to LA, because I just decided that A-style breeze, and I'm so chill that I would do better on the West Coast than in hustle like New York City. So I was thinking about that, and he was like, with digital marketing, you could work for me, and you could work for anywhere in the country. And so that sounded really good for me. And I think something that I've always thought of is I always think about what I want my life to look like 5 and 10 years down the road. So we kind of talked about being a mom, but at that point I was working every Friday and Saturday, and working till 2 a.m., sometimes like doing inventory. And so I was like, I don't want my life to look like this when I'm trying to start a family. I want to have more flexibility, and retail wasn't out of question, but it was more like I want to own the business than be the one being told when to be there and what to do. And so I left Nordstrom in the beginning of 2018, which was a little bit scary for me. I trusted my brother, but his business was also new, so I was like, I don't know. But so I did that, and still was able to like work on my blog and my business. And I think what was exciting about doing digital media for him is I knew that everything I did for him and everything I learned, I would be able to apply it for my business. And so I did a lot of web design and ran social media accounts for local businesses, and did all of that. And so speaking of like social media channels, I would say tip number 4 I have is make sure you're active on the appropriate platforms for your business. So it's kind of what I spoke about earlier with YouTube being so visual. It's like that made sense for my business. And so writing blog posts are helpful. This is a side subject, but they're really good for SEO and all of that search engine. So I still write blog posts, but content for my users, I realized that my audience, it was more appropriate to do Instagram and YouTube because it was more visual. So figure out like who your audience is and what kind of channel would be appropriate for them. In a perfect world, we're all on every single social media channel and we're posting every day at every hour, but we all know that that's not possible. So for me, figuring out YouTube and Instagram was really big. And in that year, 2018, I just started focusing, on my blog, but at that point, still free clothes, and tons of people were reaching out, but no one was willing to pay for anything. And I really wanted to take it to the next level, and so I was like, how can I monetize what I'm doing now? And I really did. I think I loved doing marketing, and I still do. I still work for him, but I really missed being in the fashion world, and my blog was allowing me to be creative, but I missed helping people. I missed styling people. And so September of 2018, I launched my own styling business, and all the experience that I got at Nordstrom was great, and I learned exactly what styling would be like, but I felt like I was limited as a stylist because I couldn't leave Nordstrom's doors, and I couldn't get coffee with the person I was styling before. I couldn't go to their home if they wanted me there. And so multiple times I would set up for a styling appointment, and for example, the husband bought it for his wife, which I think is so sweet, but he had her size completely wrong. And so one time I remember I spent hours pulling a whole room together, and then she showed up and it was a whole different size, and then I had to start over. And so thinking about styling, it's very relational for me. And so I was like, I wish that I could sit down and have coffee with them first and really understand what they're looking for, what their lifestyle is like, and the goal, because there's oftentimes many different goals. And I want to be able to go to their home. I want to clean out their current closet or see what they have and be able to fill in the gaps. So that's kind of what made me think of my own styling. And then again, I started researching and I started looking at what stylists were in Cincinnati, and there weren't many. There was a big need for that. And so in September of 2018, I launched my own styling business. And I completely rebranded my website, and so I kept it as one. I thought about, should it be separate, a blog and a styling business, and then I realized it really goes hand in hand, and I already had a strong social media influence at the time, and so I was able to use that to start my business, but I did have to do some rebranding. I want to make sure I didn't miss all the tips. So I rebranded my website so that, again, making that first impression is that when someone got to my website, that they could tell that I was a stylist, and then there was a tab in the header that was a blog. So it still had everything at once, but I wanted to monetize it better. And so instead of just relying on free clothes, I really launched my styling business. I was able to make money and also blog at the same time. And so tip number 5 is your website, social media channels should clearly identify who you are and what you do within the first 7 seconds. So like I said in the very beginning, just making sure all your social media channels and your website clearly identify who you are and what you're doing. You don't want anyone to land on your website and be like, wait, is she a realtor, or is she like a life coach? You want them to know exactly what you're doing. And I would say that if your brand is more about you as a person, then you want to be in that profile picture. You want people to see your face. If it's more of a brand, then you can use your logo in your business. And so that's kind of my story. What's exciting is when I started my styling business, that's when I actually started getting paid for blogging. And so some of my biggest, it's funny how it works, but so it all kind of like worked full circle, and some of my biggest wins I'd say are like P&G started working with me as an influencer, and I worked with Pantene and then Kroger, and then I started modeling for Alley Boutique, and I was on the cover of Loveland Lifestyle magazine. So the point of my talk today is kind of like I hope that I shared enough fails with you guys to realize that like it's not always perfect, and I wanted to go to these big cities and I wanted these corporate jobs, but I feel like I'm living my dream life now, and I have my dream job now, and I get to set my own schedule to an extent, and I get to, I guess, I set myself up to live a life that I want to have in 5 to 10 years, and it's all because I stretched I knew that I was like terrified of doing YouTube, and it was something I wouldn't want to do, and so I think the competitive nature in me was like, all right, we're going to get over this because it's going to help, and it's going to help people too. And I think the best part is like seeing people's comments that are like, this video helped me so much, or like, I can relate to you on this aspect. And it's not a massive YouTube channel right now or anything, but I think just even those 1 or 2 comments make you feel like you're making a difference.
Did you say something about like because of SEO?
SEO,
yeah. Search engine optimization.
So when someone types,
I don't know that
so
term.
if someone types in like Cincinnati artist, you would want your name to come up, but you got to do all this like coding and keywords so that Google can pull those words and know that you're an artist and show them your website or your name. So blogging is really good for that because you're writing tons of words that Google can read. So I'll write really long blog posts about that I'm a Cincinnati stylist, and then they'll be able to pull that, and then if you type in Cincinnati stylist, I'll come up. So there's some people that still read my blog, but I mostly do it like for Google reasons that people will be able to find. Yeah.
Where's your favorite place to shop for clothes?
So I would say I still like Nordstrom, I think, because I'm very familiar there. I also like Urban Outfitters. It's a little bit more edgy. And then All Saints is my favorite leather company. So this is All Saints. My bag is All Saints. It's my favorite. I'm going to grab my water while you guys go for it. Anyone else? Yeah.
So, you were saying that a goal of yours were 52 videos. So I'm assuming that was 1 a week. So content, like, was it just different outfits, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how did you come up with enough content to do 52 videos? Because I think that's a
That's
lot.
impressive.
And something, right, and that's something I struggle with too, because I can talk all day long about real estate and the process and the this and the that and the whatever, but, you know, I'm always like, do they want to hear about that again? You know, they
Yeah.
Right, I'm like, oh my gosh, 52 videos,
Yeah.
tell me, like, how, you know, the content
Started
process.
my goal at 1 a month.
I mean, that's a good
12,
goal.
we'll start at 12.
Yeah. I think I'm back at 1 a month or 2, so, but it was just that 1 year I went really hard. I would say kind of when you think of social media, same thing, like, so I would do seasonal things, so what I got for Christmas, like products that I recommend. I would do also more lifestyle things, so besides fashion I would do like home decor trends because I love that as well. And then I would also make it more personal because I think, especially this year out of any other year, it's all about being like authentic and people want to know who's behind the business. And so honestly, sometimes I would use YouTube to not necessarily talk about styling, but be like, hey, this is who I am. So that if you want to hire me or if you want to know who I am, you at least know some personal things about me, or you can decide if you like me or not. And then honestly, sometimes when I was at a complete like loss for an idea, there's so many blog posts out there that you can Google like YouTube ideas. And you don't always want to do things that other people are doing, but if they're trending or if that's what's popular on YouTube, that'll help you get seen. So I have a couple videos that have like 100 views, and then I have one series that I did that has over 20,000 views on each video. And so now looking back through that, I'm like, I'm probably not going to do videos like the ones that got 100 views. I'm probably going to do, because that series was about a minimalist wardrobe, and so it was like how to have only 12 pieces if you're preppy, or only 12 pieces if you're edgy. But I did that in 2017, so I'll probably do that same thing for 2020 to just get more relevant content. But yeah, sometimes it's just Googling like, hey, YouTube ideas, or if spring is coming up, I would be like spring break outfits. So it definitely had a lot to do with like seasonal changes or what was popular at the time. And then sometimes if I liked someone else's video, I was like, I want to do something like that. That's fun. Does that help?
Yeah.
It's definitely not easy. I feel like all the time. And something that I've tried to get better at is when I film a video, that day I'm like, all right, what should I do? But I've tried to come up with a list so that if I'm not creative that day, or if I'm like can't think of anything, I'm like, oh, I can go back on my list and pick one of those ideas that I previously thought of. Is something that has helped.
So how do you, okay, question, so I have a lot of followers and friends on social media that do the lifestyle blog, and like they'll be able to blog about things they love, like you said, home decor, or how to make good life choices, or faith, or something, fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
But then the way that they make money is that they are able to collaborate with other people and get those free clothes, or they're marketing for P&G or something.
Yeah.
So what would you tell someone who's like in the middle, like now you want to actually make money with it? How can you reach out and get that extra step?
Yeah, so I think it depends, first of all, if you want like a local audience or a national, or both. So for a while, I think when I first started, mine was more like all over the country. But then I wanted to start partnering with local boutiques, and some people reached out, but they were like, what's your audience? And it was all national, and so they didn't want to work with me for that sense. So I think, first of all, think about if you want to work with local or national or both. But I would say that in the beginning, a lot of the times I had to reach out to people, and I think that can be nerve-wracking, and I've heard a lot of people be like, I just don't know what to say, or I don't know. But to be honest, like a lot of business owners may not have looked at influencer marketing, or they may not have the time to do the research to find people. And so if you reach out to them, it could be as simple as like, oh, I didn't know you exist, but your content looks great. Like, I think that our audiences would match. And so I would say a few years ago, I made a really professional media kit, and I would email them. But honestly, I'd say in 2020, it can be as simple as like a DM, a direct message on Instagram that says like, hey, I really love like what your products and your brand, and I think that knowing my audience, it would be a really good fit. Would you be interested in working with me? And then that's all you have to say. And then if they're interested, they'll say yes, and you can figure out details like if they give you something free, or if they repost your picture, because that'll give you you know, more exposure. So have you ever tried that before?
Just barely.
Okay, yeah.
A couple people have asked me to collaborate, but it's like, oh, I gotta spend $100. So it's like, is it worth putting the $100 out and then
Yeah.
like wearing your clothes and then taking a picture and someone likes it? Like, how do you?
They would ask you to pay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like they'll give you a percentage off.
Yeah, I normally don't do that, just because it's like you shouldn't pay to help someone else. But yeah, and I'd say that there's a lot of brands out there that are more like spammy, and they'll just kind of, like, I have sunglass brands all the time that just message me like, hey, free sunglasses, but those glasses are worth like $10 or $15. So I think it would be intentional about you finding like specifically brands that you think match your audience and your content, because if you don't match up and you reach out to them, they'll be like, why does she think that we have similar audiences? And yeah, but I would definitely keep doing that. That's what I had to do in the beginning. And maybe just to create a relationship with them, maybe you do a free photo shoot. And because sometimes I would do free photo shoots wearing their clothes, because then I didn't have to buy clothes for my pictures, because it did help. And then you're creating content. But maybe you just create the relationship with them and work for free a couple times, and then after that be like, this is what I typically charge, or I'd really like to keep this relationship going. And
Okay, that's helpful.
yeah.
I want to start off by thanking our speakers, like each and every one of them, Megan, Wendy, Allie. Thank you so much for coming out and sharing your stories today. We learned a lot of really valuable things about knowing what your why is for your company, overcoming fear, community over competition. That was huge. Thank you for saying that out loud, because I think it every day. And just everything that Allie brought up to us today about your personal style and your brand. Just really valuable content. So thank you so much, ladies, for coming out here. Brittany already left, but I'm going to say thank yous to her anyway. Brittany and Cece, I partnered with them today for this event to help network with you ladies, and I couldn't have done it without them. So huge thank yous to them as well. I really hope you found today's content valuable, and we look forward to hosting again.